Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome once again to another fabulous edition of Chamber Chat presented by Bose, McKinney, and Evans. One of these days, I'm going to get like a real slide that we can put up, but we're happy to be here. We have a great topic, and to join us and introduce our speaker today from Bose, McKinney, and Evans, we have Alan Becker, board member with the Greater Lawrence Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Brad. I won't take much time today. I know that I see a lot of people are working from home with the snow and with all the other things that are going on. I know that it's really had an interesting effect on our practice as well as a lot of other people's businesses and has caused a lot of stress for people. It's also given a lot of opportunities to people, I noticed, because a lot of people are refinancing and doing all kinds of other things, which we've been pretty busy with. But our guest today is Kimble Richardson from Community Health Network, who is, I am sure, got his hands full lately with all of the issues that have come as a result of the pandemic and people's changes in their lives. Kimble's a licensed mental health counselor, clinical social worker, marriage and family therapist, and clinical addiction counselor. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Brad and Kimble.
Thank you very much, Alan. Kimble, welcome. So when I asked you to come on as our guest about a week and a half ago, I thought, wow, winter has gotten about as bad as it's going to get. It had been 2 months. It had been cold.
Brad.
And how wrong I was. So anyhow, I wanted to bring you on right now just because this time of year, typically people get seasonal depression. The sun goes away in November. We don't start seeing it again until March. The days are short. It's cold. People aren't getting outside. You don't socialize a lot anyhow because it's after the holidays. And then this year we throw COVID in on top of that. And I know just from talking to you and others, people seem to be struggling with their own personal mental health, or people are, they have employees that are struggling. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about pointers, helpful hints on how do you get through a time like this, and how do you keep yourself sane so that we're all here come springtime?
That sounds great. This is I really appreciate you thinking of the topic and putting it on prime time. You are the consummate host, Brad, and I appreciate it. And yeah, and interestingly enough, seasonal depression, seasonal disorders in general don't happen just in the winter. It happens at season change. Now, we know more about wintertime because it's a little bit more obvious that people can get, more down, if you will. And frankly, it's a large part of it is the lack of sunlight. Now, today, as you can see, my glasses are even changing color because it's so bright outside. But in Indiana, we can have 1, 2, or 3 weeks without sunshine sometimes. And that really does have an effect on people's moods. And if you are prone to having depression anyway, it just makes it more challenging.
So now you work with Community Health Network, and they have an entire department based on mental health wellness. First, let's start with, I think some people are pretty in tune when they're feeling down and it's getting to them, but sometimes to look at your employees, look at the people you work with, it might not be as evident. What are some signs that people should look for that they might have a coworker or an employee that's struggling a little bit with this time of year, or really, as you say, any seasonal change?
Well, let me back up if you don't mind.
Sure.
And just say that I think that there is a bit of a culture change when it's come to mental health recently. It used to be that management, leadership, the predominant thinking was you come here to work and you leave your home life at home. And we're not going to ask about your home life. And frankly, we don't care about your home life. So you're here to do a job, and that's that. And I really believe that the pandemic heightened it, but we were kind of switching to your home life and your personal life is important to us. We do want to support you as a person. Of course, you have some roles and you have a job to do with our company, but you as a whole person are important. And so for that, people, I think, used to feel awkward about asking employees, how are you doing? What's your mental health like? Is there anything you need? I'm noticing XYZ about you. But now it's a lot more accepted. I think people want to know that you care about me, and asking, how are you doing? I'm concerned about the fact that you haven't shown up, or that your performance seems to be a little down. Is everything going okay in your personal and work life? Those are questions that are okay to ask.
So what are some obvious signs that might indicate that people are struggling a little bit? Because as you said, I mean, the reason that employers offer healthcare benefits is because they want their employees to be happy and healthy, and it makes them more productive. And I think mental health goes along with that. So if you look at the whole body of health and healthcare, mental health is probably every bit as important as physical health. So what should people look for that might be a sign that, hey, maybe it's time to reach out to this person and make sure that everything's okay?
Well, one of the things that I was doing during the pandemic was binging on some TV shows, one of which was Mad Men, which I didn't watch the first time around. And so in Mad Men, the culture was you could go out and have martini lunches, right? Well, so an obvious, and it was acceptable in that culture and at that time during the 50s and 60s. You know, in 2021, if somebody comes to work and they smell like alcohol, or they appear to be under the influence of some kind of substance, that's not okay. And sometimes you can tell visually, and sometimes look at things like work performance, absenteeism, difficulty staying awake, not getting deadlines completed. They're more obvious things. The more subtle things are times when I think employers feel a little awkward asking about it. But it would be like if somebody's showing up at a meeting and their hygiene is bad. So how do you address that? You know, and that a little bit of that has changed because we're doing a lot of things virtually, and people, I think, feel, or at least used to feel like, oh, I can wear sweatpants and tennis shoes or flip-flops in my meetings. Well, maybe not. But if you're not brushing your hair, if you don't look kempt, that could be something else. Could be a sign of potentially depression or at least stress.
Well, and you just mentioned something. With so many people working from home, I think it's easy to become very casual. And there's probably that fine line between being casual and unprofessional. And
right.
my guess would be that the unprofessionalism might actually be an indication of somebody struggling either with just isolation or
That's right.
caring. What do you recommend to people as far as, you know, how do they conduct themselves professionally if they are working from home?
Just reminded me. Okay, so I'm the chair of the state licensing board for behavioral health and human services licensing. So anybody that wants to be licensed as a mental health counselor, social worker, marriage and family therapist, or addictions counselor, that's that board. And we were in a licensing board meeting. They've been virtual for the past year. And one of the attendees literally went to the bathroom as they were on the on the call. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, you want a professional license and you're taking the phone or your laptop with you in the bathroom. Of course, I was chatting with my colleagues. Is this really going to happen? I mean, it was a little bit scary. But I think it's important for us to have some some frank conversations with people about what's appropriate etiquette. Because, and this has also happened to me in my career, that I was approached by our leadership to speak with one of our student doctors about their hygiene. Now, this was when we were in person about a year ago, and this person was, just say it, malodorous. They weren't tucking in their scrubs. I mean, they were dirty, things like that. This is obviously an extremely bright and accomplished person who wants to become a physician. And so, they asked me, hey, Kimble, you're good at talking to people. Why don't you talk would you talk to them about it? I'm like, gee, thanks. But it really gave me pause to think, how would I like to be approached if somebody had to talk to me about something difficult? So that's the way I approached it. I want to talk with you about something that's difficult to say, and I'm just going to say it because we care about you. And we've noticed that your hygiene is not good, and your clothing is a little soiled, and you're a little stinky, bro. I just said it like that. And, we had a really good conversation. We did. And he said, I appreciate you letting me know. I've been studying so much. I'm not sleeping a lot. They had a change in roommate situations, and he didn't have his regular person doing the laundry and blah, blah, blah. So it was nice. It was difficult conversation to start, and it might have been a little embarrassing to hear. But otherwise, this person is representing your company, if you will, in your organization. And so you can be frank, but with, kindness and love in your heart too.
Do you find that there's a correlation between people that get up, dress up, and are professional, even if it's only going to be them and the dog all day? Do they perform better? Do they have a better state of mind?
They're brilliant. Don't you know that?
People that wear purple jackets probably perform the best at work.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll tell you what, and people who know me know that I've always been a fashion guy. I've always been interested in clothing ever since I was a little kid in high school, especially. But I made a promise to myself that I was going to do two things. This is beginning of the pandemic when it was so overwhelming. And I said, I'm going to take a shower every day and I'm going to dress up every day. And that ironically helped me to feel sane because it helped me to keep my regular routine. That's part of who I am as a person, my regular routine. Not everybody showers every day. Not everybody does that. That's okay. But it helped me, and it helped me to dress up. And I did, I've got my regular dress up shoes, my dress up socks and pants. And sometimes people will do, shorts and flip flops if they're out of the screen, but it really was helpful to me. And it does help set some boundaries between when I'm at work and when I'm not at work, even though I'm literally in the same physical space, which is my house right now. This used to be my son's bedroom. We kicked him out because I'm like, Daddy needs an office, bro. you got to move out. Thankfully, he's 26, so it worked out okay. But the other day, this just happened. That I was like, I really want to take a break from work. This is probably 8 at night. I wanted to finish a project, but I wanted to watch a show at the same time. And I thought, what's going to help me to get out of work mode? And I decided I need to change my clothes. I got out of my suit and tie. I put on my jeans and my sweatshirt. And I'm like, okay, I felt physically more relaxed. So, people don't have to do it that way, but that was just, it's a nice boundary to set for yourself. And especially to know the difference between work and play and being professional, if you will.
Yeah. So before I open it up to questions from the gallery, if you could give 3 pointers to people who are watching this. Obviously we have a nice live audience, and then we're recording this, and we'll make this available tomorrow forevermore on YouTube and on our Facebook page. But if you could give three helpful hints for people to kind of keep themselves mentally strong, especially this time of year, or even if they're just starting to feel down or feel like things are getting away from them, what would you recommend?
Social connections. And that means one person in your life that you can trust and you can share things with, and just share things with that person. So at least one person. Now, we like to say a social network. And not everybody has a whole cadre of people that they, feel comfortable with like that. But if you have at least one, and stretch yourself a little bit to, don't keep everything down in there, get it out. So social connections. Number 2, having a sense of optimism or hope is so important. And I'm not trying to be Pollyanna and say everything's fine, because it's not. Some things are really tough, especially those of us who have been impacted by death from the pandemic or loss of jobs, et cetera. It is serious. So, but if you have a sense of hope that things can be different or even a little better at some point, that does show that it helps keep people resilient. And this is just something I learned recently in the last 24 hours. Stress, and let me say it simply and then I'll qualify it. Stress is not inherently bad. Now that's to be like, well, duh, Kimble, you mean I signed in to hear you tell me that? Okay, all right, let me qualify it. And frankly, I just changed my mind literally yesterday because I used to think, not all stress is bad, but stress in general generally affects our health. But there has been, and I just looked it up and read about some psychologists that shared this information. There has been some research that it's not the stress per se, but it's whether you believe stress is bad for you or potentially helpful to you. So if I think that coming on this program today, and I was going to get all nervous and this is going to be difficult, I wasn't sure what I was going to be asked, and what if somebody asked me a question that I don't know? You literally just put me on the spot and say, Kimble, 3 things right now. What are they? Okay, that's some pressure, right? And what if I froze, or what if I couldn't think of anything? That's seeing stress as a negative. But what if I thought to myself, this is going to be live audience and I'm going to be under some pressure, but it's going to help me think on my feet quickly. I know my profession, I know the material, and you can do this, and you might make a mistake, and that's okay because you're human. You know what I mean? You see how I'm talking to myself? The situation is exactly the same, but how I'm viewing the stress can really make a long-term difference. And these are studies that have been going on for several years, but it's a little bit of a change in how we think about stress and whether it's inherently bad or not for us.
All right, then. I'm going to stress you out. Say one thing.
I tell you, I needed to leave at 1:50 p.m. today.
I want to thank our sponsor, Bose, McKinney, and Evans. Thank you very much for sponsoring Chamber Chat. Let's open it up for questions from the gallery. If somebody has a question, raise your hand and we'll bring you up. Kimble's quite the resource, so he's willing to take any and all questions. Jeff
Yes,
Taylor.
sir.
Hello, Brad. Hello, Kimble. How are you both today?
Good.
Yes, sir.
Jeff.
Very good. I have an employee who so first of all, just stepping backwards, I own my own public relations firm. I've been working from home since 2011. And so on the one hand, the whole pandemic thing is not entirely new. On the other hand, there are some differences. And now, of course, my staff is also working from home. And that's an adjustment, of course, for people. One of my employees is, some of his challenges that, he's cooped up with his wife and his kid and their home. He's got to kind of do more parenting responsibilities during the day than he used to have to. And they feel like they can't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I keep encouraging him, you should take some time off. You got a lot of vacation days. But he's like, yeah, but I can't do anything. So I'm just going to keep working. But he's clearly stressed and could use some things to do to try to help him with that. And whether that's maybe, consecutive days off or just taking breaks during the day. And so some of the things that you've talked about are helpful, but any other suggestions on how to use your time when you know that you've got vacation time, but you don't have any place to go? What else can you do?
I think the traditional thought about a vacation is that you have to go somewhere far away. And we don't. We have such an awesome city, you guys, in Lawrence, in Indianapolis, the greater Indianapolis area, such rich opportunities to get a hotel close by or go to the museum you've always wanted to go to. Indiana State Museum, I know, has, speaking to mental health, one of their exhibits right now is about the opioid addiction and how that came into being and what resources that they have available, things like that. It's fascinating. So ways to get out and just, get out of your house, I think, are important. So you don't have to go somewhere out of town, if you will. I think the other thing is, Jeff, that for your gentleman, it's important to have your own space in your house, even if you have a small house and several people live together. And we had to work. This is called negotiation 101. My wife and my son and I our daughter lives out of the house. Our son is still here. And so we had to negotiate with each other. We got into a couple of difficult, a little bit of heated arguments at the beginning. I'm trying to be in meetings, doing presentations, and my wife's a nurse. My son is in college and he's trying to be on calls and whatnot. And sometimes when my wife's not working, the three of us are at home together, all trying to use our band, the Wi-Fi, all trying to be in the right light, so we look good. And we had to work it out every day to say, okay, who needs time, who needs to be quiet, at what time during the day. It literally just before I logged on, I called out to my wife, honey, I'm going to be giving a presentation at 1:30. Can you not run the sweeper? She'd been running the sweeper. So she said, okay, I'll leave it for you to do when you're done. So that's how she worked that out. But negotiating and talking things out, I think, is so important.
So that's good. And I'm going to glob onto that just a little bit. Kimble, you mentioned Sheila and I, when this whole pandemic hit, we actually started a little Facebook page called Adventures with Brad. And, they said that you're supposed to stay distanced and you're not supposed to be around other people. But the great thing about Indiana is there's a lot of outside rural Indiana. And there's nothing that says that you can't get in the car and go see natural beauty or just drive down country roads. And about every weekend, we will get out and we've discovered all sorts of fabulous places just in and around Indiana. Sometimes we'll just pick a direction and not really even know where we're going. But it's a great way to keep your sanity and get out of the house, because I think, you can get in this rut where you think, man, I can't leave the house. That's not true.
Right. That's absolutely not true.
Yeah, you can leave the house and there's lots of places to get out and not necessarily be around people, but see neat stuff. So that is my 2 cents.
Let me say one more thing to Jeff. This is pivoting, Brad, from what you were just talking about. but just about resources. And I see that my good buddy Kelby Gaw is on the Zoom with us. Kelby represents Mental Health America of Indiana, which is an awesome organization. It's a nonprofit organization right here in our state. We have some chapters, but they represent the state. And their website in particular has lots of resources available on it for mental health tips, tricks, etc. And that's another thing about these. And thank you, Brad, for bringing us together too. It's another great thing about partnerships. I've been in many conferences, committees, meetings, projects with Kelby, with her staff and Mental Health America. I didn't know she was going to be on here today, but it just is a nice reminder to reach out to your buddies and partners. And I see Julie Olschlager with Community Health Network, one of my good buddies. Today, we just did a project today together. So it's a great way to solidify colleagues, friendships, work partnerships, use it as networking. But again, it's also part of that social networking that we all need to stay resilient.
All right, let me pull up the gallery here. More questions for Kimble while he's here. I see Russ Dodge. Russ, go right ahead.
All right, thanks. Kimble, first off, are you in Community North, or where are you based out of? I'm asking. My wife is with. She's a nurse manager in the heart hospital. She'll ask.
Okay. Well, I used to have an office. I don't anymore. So I'm responsible for all of behavioral health at Community, and but right now I'm literally in my house.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you. But the thing I wanted to ask about is I've got a friend who's in his mid-50s and single, was married for about 6 or 7 years. He said before I knew him, it was a complete train wreck. But anyway, he's always wanted another good, solid relationship in his life, ideally to marry, and thought he found that wonderful person. I met her once. She was quite delightful. It didn't work out. So she did we can still be friends. That's not where he wanted to go. She ends up unfriending him from Facebook, and then he's subsequently found out from someone who did see her Facebook page that she's in love with somebody else now. This is within about a 4-month period or thereabouts. But twice he has alluded to me that his life isn't worth living, and I feel like I'm trying to talk him off a ledge or something. I don't know that it's that serious, but I can't assume. I can't assume that. I don't know. What suggestions you got for me?
Russ, thank you so much for bringing this up. I wasn't quite sure where this was going to go for a minute, but that's very serious. And the good thing is, there's help available, and you do not have to be responsible for his life. Okay. What you can do is make some suggestions to connect him with some assistance. And that can be, we have a crisis line at Community Health Network in behavioral health. It's and I can say it now, but also maybe you can make that available, Brad and Erica, 317-621-5700. 621-5700 is our crisis line. But also in July, Indiana 211, which most of you know is an information and referral or resource telephone number. You literally call 211 on your phone. That service added another component to their ability to serve the public, which is to provide crisis counseling. And so if you call 211, you'll get an answer tree, and you'll have some options, one of which is, do you want to speak with a crisis counselor? And I can tell you, because I know the people running that program extremely well, they are averaging about 16 seconds from the time when you call in to being connected with a crisis counselor. So it gets people to help very quickly. And in the most extreme, if needed, you can call 911 and police will do a wellness check and
Yeah.
make sure that they're okay.
Gotcha. How do I approach to him? Hey, you should call this crisis. Should I just give it to him and say, next time you really, need that and you don't get a chance to talk to me, call this number? Is that a good suggestion? Or
Yep.
Okay.
You can literally say that. You can say, let's call it right now and see what it's like. And let's talk to someone and say, hey, is this the right number to call if I'm having a mental health crisis? That's perfectly fine too.
Gotcha. Okay. No, thank you. That's very cool. I appreciate it.
Good advice. Kelby Gaw, you had a question for Kimble.
Yes. Well, it's not necessarily a question just for Kimble. I don't know how, but I will say, starting off, thank you, Kimble, for your presentation. I miss seeing you.
I know, I miss seeing you too.
I just love seeing you at events and stuff, and I'm sad that I never get to see you as much anymore. But so as Kimble mentioned earlier, my name's Kelby Gaw, and I'm with Mental Health America of Indiana. I'm the communications and marketing director there, and I also do government affairs work. So I do advocacy on the state level for mental health and addiction issues. And we have just launched our training institute at Mental Health America. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, hopefully coming to an end and thinking about opening up, our business sector again and being in person again, we are trying to prepare for an influx of employers having to deal with mental health crisis, specifically with their employees. And we are interested in seeing if there would be a need for training Hoosier employers. And I don't know how many Hoosier employers we have here on the phone, but I know we have representation from the Lawrence Chamber. But we just think that, it would be a cool thing to provide trainings to our workforce employers rather than putting all of the responsibility on the employee to seek mental health help. A lot of times employers aren't trained adequately in dealing with mental health crisis in the workplace. So I just I guess that was more of a question to all of you to see if, you guys think that there's a need as well as we open up the world to more in-person work. And so, yeah, I guess that's my question. And then would your employer or would your organization be interested in training and how to deal with mental health crisis specifically?
Maybe that's something that people can respond to in the chat, or Brad could collect that information for you, Kelby. So another shout out to my buddy David Berman with Mental Health America of Indiana. He and I and another colleague invented a new intervention model this past year that's been published already. So in that we've been talking about it out in the community, and some businesses are taking advantage of it too. It's for employee support. So that may be something of interest at some point.
So Kimble Richardson, don't want to take up too much of your day, and I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thanks to Bose, McKinney, and Evans for sponsoring Chamber Chat this week.
It's homegrown, Brad, homegrown.
Chamber Chat was born out of COVID. Had to come up with a way to keep everybody together when you couldn't be together. So one little housekeeping note. Originally, we were scheduled to have the State of the City with Mayor Collier on March 4th. As of today, that date has been switched to May 12th. It's a Wednesday, and it's going to be a luncheon. So mark your calendars, and that will be an updated date on that. Thank you for everybody who showed up. This is a very important topic. Again, if you have more questions, I know in the chat box, and I'll leave this up for a couple minutes in case anybody wants to scribble any of this down. But there's plenty of good information, some phone numbers in there. So thank you once again, Kimble. Thank you all for joining us. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with another fabulous edition of Chamber Chat presented by Bose, McKinney, and Evans. Everybody have a great week. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.